We should start with the tabloids today because the Star has the bit of information that, so everybody has the information that Martin O'Neill is going to sit down with John Delaney in advance of the draw, which is in Dublin for the next European Championships. The draw for the next European Championship finals is going to be in Dublin, the groups. There will be some games here, and in advance of that, there's a sense that they're going to sit down, but it was like just a scheduled sit down, except there's a few people who have different information. Luke Edwards in the Telegraph has information on his piece, and on the back of the Star, Paul Lennon has information.
Yeah, we'll start with the Star because it is the most striking headline this morning. Marty's over, says the headline. FAI want deal with O'Neill before Euros draw. Now, Paul Lennon is actually saying here that Martin O'Neill's exit as Ireland manager is going to be finalised before Sunday week's draw. And then you start to think to yourself, wait a minute, Martin O'Neill's exit. So he's got information here that the FAI has decided in principle that his 5-year reign should come to an end right here, right now. So they're going to meet.
Right now.
Exactly. As Fatboy Slim so ominously predicted for Martin O'Neill, it's going to happen in the very, very near future. So Martin O'Neill wants the support of the FAI board, or he wants to know that he's got the full support of the FAI board. That's what Neil O'Riordan is reporting this morning in The Sun. Dane for is the headline here. Martin's sweating. So he wants to know if he still enjoys the FAI's full support ahead of the Euro 2020 draw. So regardless of what angle you want to take on it, the thing that is clear this morning is that this situation is going to come to a head next week at the very latest.
And what's Luke Edwards saying?
Luke Edwards this morning in the Daily Telegraph, who's also got very good sources, particularly with Martin O'Neill, it seems, is reporting, wherever I can find it, if you just bear with me here while I find the Luke Edwards story.
Okay, so Nathan was tweeting it. Let me just
I don't think it's actually carried.
All right.
In the newspaper this morning.
Well, there you go. So, at Telefootball, Martin O'Neill's 5-year reign as Ireland manager drawing to a close as he's called in for crunch talks with FAI. This was 7:03 AM, and it's live on their website this morning. So,
but the thing is, the crunch talks are definitely happening. That's been reported widely this morning. And you've clearly just got a number of journalists with different sources within the FAI, and it's hard to decipher which exactly is the one that's going to pertain to truth over the next couple of days.
Martin O'Neill's 5-year reign as Republic of Ireland manager appeared to be at an end after he was summoned to an emergency meeting with the Football Association of Ireland Chief Executive John Delaney late on Tuesday night. O'Neill, who led Ireland out of the group stage of the European Championships for the first time, was just one game away from qualifying for the first World Cup since 2002 last year, has endured a torrid 2018. If that information is coming from Luke Edwards, you'd be very confident in that information. So it looks like things are hurtling forward at a rate of knots that we had not anticipated.
Yeah, definitely. So the meeting was like, we could have something today, who knows, because they were due to meet last night. O'Neill's battle is how they frame it on the back of the Irish Daily Mail. Threat of axe hanging over Ireland manager. You've got a couple of other stories as well. The Herald also leading with football, but it's stuff not good enough up front. Irish centre-back feels for strikers starved of supply, says Shane Duffy. I was saying this to Tommy earlier on and he completely disagrees with me, but you got a picture of Shane Duffy and Jack Conan side by side this morning. Brothers?
Brothers from another mother.
Yeah? No?
Well, they've got the same delta haircut and the same chiseled jaw and the same hair. It's a bit more of a moustache from, but not, you know, two rugged Irishmen.
Not my worst doppelganger shout.
No.
But not my best either. A couple of other stories from the tabloids that don't lead with Ireland's. The Mirror goes with Ger and Eoin. City will have to pay record £75 million fee to land the Ajax and Holland star in January transfer window. They see him as a long-term replacement to Fernandinho. Paul O'Hare, though, as well on the back here, saying O'Neill to meet for a debrief with Dell. And a couple of the UK back pages, and we've already mentioned the Telegraph, but their lead is Carling back on duty. Former Grand Slam winning captain helps out England. And back at the Guardian is £40 a week to build the World Cup. The workers paid a pittance to deliver Qatar's 2022 dream. It's grim stuff. It's David Conn's special report in The Guardian. OK, so the Irish Times lead today is the Gordon Darcy column. What comes next will take care of itself. Ireland are serious contenders. New Zealand rugby will unearth unknown riches between now and the World Cup. He finishes. Remember, John Olomu only appeared in the weeks before the 95 tournament. Nea Milner-Scudder was a global surprise in 2015. We know they need a blind side to live beside the legends of Jerry Collins and Jerome Kino, but that's for another time. Let's enjoy the afterglow. So obviously he didn't get the memo from yesterday's show. There's no time to be enjoying afterglow. No
post-coital cigarettes here. And then they've got the Qatar piece as well. Bullish O'Neill confident he can change Ireland's form is the headline on Emmett Malone's piece. So obviously he gave a briefing to the dailies after the game, and they're all carrying that stuff, but it appears as if this morning things are moving on, at least according to the Star and the Telegraph. Ireland not my radar. Cullen shoots down talk of national role is the lead on the Examiner, and there's great pieces actually from all the GAA correspondents today, from Sean Moran in the Times, from Kieran Shannon in the Examiner, and also from Michael Foley in the Times Ireland edition about Weeshie Fogarty and just the impact that he had on all their lives. They were all at various stages guests on Terrace Talk. I think Michael's is the kind of most intimate in terms of the relationship that they had. But yeah, just great pieces. Like, if you love GAA, if you love the noise and colour and passion of GAA people, and particularly football people, then Weeshie kind of embodied that, and they've all had a chance to kind of sift through their own recollections of it and the impact that he had, and I would recommend all three of those pieces for you today. The notion that Ireland's not on the radar for Leo Cullen, it's like, I can understand that. I think Leo Cullen's got one of the best jobs in world rugby at the moment. Yeah,
100%. We'll come back to that in our breakfast menu very shortly, but that's reported in a couple of papers.
Yeah, O'Neill will discuss fate with the FAI. John Fallon has that story on the Times Ireland edition, and then Scotland beat Israel last night, so they're not in our group because they got promoted? Or did they get promoted from D to C?
They've gone from C to B.
Oh yeah, okay, so Scots way ahead of us.
Well, you see, that's the thing. Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane might well have got us promoted from League C had we been down there. That's what I say. With the next manager is going to be in a very good position, or whoever the manager is in 4 years' time. It's like, well, we're going in the right direction.
We got promoted.
Like, mate, you beat Macedonia and Kosovo.
Well, happy days. And everybody went on the piss for 3 days. Ireland won 3 strong options for every position. Murphy, so this is assistant coach Richie Murphy saying the depth at open side flanker is exactly what they need to head into the World Cup. O'Neill plans Delaney talks to clarify his Ireland future. Manager retains enthusiasm for the job after challenging year, raises doubt about direction. And then the back page of the Racing Post is double tops. So they're loading their own tipsters. Brilliant. At the last World Cup of Golf in 2016, Steve Palmer tipped the winners Denmark at 22-1 and the runners-up France at 33-1, and also apparently at last year's Hong Kong Open he tipped the winner at 80-1 and the second place guy who were both at 81. Can he land another one too? What do you think he's gone for in terms of is he going to go for like another 22-1 shot?
I'd imagine Lowry and Paul Dunn are big outsiders this week.
His top tip is Australia favourites at 9-2.
Who's representing them?
That's what happens to genius. Like, you come out of the blocks full of brio, piss and vinegar, and it's all brilliant, and then people go, you're brilliant, and you're like, oh, I might just tip the favourites.
How are USA favourites? Or Australia favourites? Who's representing them? Leishman and somebody else?
Smith, yeah.
The story you haven't mentioned on the back of the Racing Post there is the other one. Who's favourites?
3 Lions favourites for Nations League title.
Imagine Portugal, the hype when they win the Nations League next summer.
There was...
It's going to be amazing.
It won't be. There'll be hardly any hype. They'll appreciate that for a goblet of minor prestige, and they'll move on.
They played football's coming home after they beat Croatia at the weekend.
Yeah, but like, football's coming home is now like post-ironic.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. That's what I'm saying. It's like the faux hype almost.
Larry and Dunn are 16-1 to win it. I mean, no. You're not having it?
Well, like, to give an educated opinion of that, I need to go through the 2 people representing every single country.
Yeah, fair point. Who's going to bother doing that? It's the World Cup golf.
I'm telling you, Larry and Paul Dunn are good at golf.
They are, and I'd say they'll be good together.
Yeah, they probably will, actually. But I'm not sure. I'm not looking past the Aussies this week, Ger.
So are we moving on to the breakfast menu? This is the 2 lads from the...
Yes, let's just move on to the breakfast menu. It's up there, right beside you.
Martin O'Neill's ruled out.
Yeah.
Leo staying put. GAA Central Council. That's always a hot topic. The rumour mill and drunk curlers. The drunk curlers is probably where we should start. We're going to start with Martin O'Neill. So Martin O'Neill's ruled out. We had assumed was going to be at the end of the qualifying campaign before any potential playoff for the European Championships, that he was going to be given that opportunity through the campaign. But the question had been posed, and I think Nathan was probably the first person that you heard posing it, is there value for the FAI in having a new manager who fills the stadium and brings a sense of excitement and wonder, and so therefore it gets between 35 and 45,000 paying customers to the Aviva for the home games for the qualifying campaign versus whatever it costs to pay Martin O'Neill up at this point? Is there a value for the FA? What's the break-even point on that, and what's the risk-reward? Is it possible that Martin O'Neill can turn this around with his current squad of players and qualify through whatever draw he gets for the European Championships?
Or maybe there's a non-financial value to getting rid of Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane. Maybe, well, not maybe, it was definitely reported, I think Balls.ie had at the last say that there was confiscation of Delaney out banners before the game in Aarhus at the weekend, or 2 nights ago. So it becomes a point where the FAI are looking to try and save their own reputations here. The people have started to turn to them rather than turn to the management or the players in terms of the blame game. So if they want to be seen to act, then they can do something here, and it doesn't matter really about the financial implications. They need to be seen to do a good job, and I'm sure that they want to do a good job. I'm sure they want the Irish national men's team to actually succeed in the future. So I think that's where the reward is. I think really that kind of...
Just the right decision.
The right decision. The right thing to do here, whatever they think would bring
money
success. Exactly. To whatever they feel will be a material impact positively on the Irish football team, then they need to make that decision. And if it's going to cost them €4 million, it's still a huge amount of money. But if it's going to cost them €4 million, it probably is worth that.
You can't really make those decisions though, because that's money you don't have. Whereas at least you know that Martin O'Neill will do the job that he's always done over the next while. Like, he will make the team very hard to beat in the next qualifying campaign. It could be 6-0 all draws. Like, it could easily be 6-0 all draws in whatever group we get into, right? And so there is a possibility that regardless of what group we get in, we'll still be in with a shout of qualification halfway through. So the risk reward becomes an issue, and the money becomes an issue.
Of course it does, but like you've said it here, I don't think we know how big that risk reward is going to be until Sunday week, until we actually see who's in our group. Yeah, because it's not. To be honest, for me, it's like not a risk at all if it's Germany and France we get. It's like,
do you make the decision now?
Well, you see, the thing, I don't see the point of making the decision now as opposed to waiting just 10 days. Like, just wait and see who we've got. I think it makes total sense just to make sure it's not.
Okay, well let's make the decision. Let's pause the decision, and then what triggers your decision after the group is made?
Well, I suppose if you look at it, it's an incredibly tough draw. You're on a kind of, there's nothing really up for grabs in the automatic qualification places. You're looking at the automatic qualification places as a training camp almost for the Nations League playoffs. Now the thing is, maybe that equates to the perfect reason to get rid of Martin O'Neill. That if you want the manager in tow for this training camp, as I say, for the Nations League playoffs, then you want that person in charge throughout. Then if you look at it on the other hand, if it's a really easy group, and it's like, well, we've got a very good chance of getting the second seed here, are you still trusting Martin O'Neill to do that? And maybe the answer to both of those questions is no, you wouldn't trust Martin O'Neill to do either of them. And maybe John Delaney's right to sit down with him now and say, listen, it's all over, if that's what the case is.
I think, though, that if you're O'Neill, right, just to play this potential meeting that either has happened or is going to happen out, that you're having a conversation saying, well, my first choice midfield's gone for the last year, Declan Rice gone, you know, so I'm building around him and James McCarthy, and I'm trying to find new people, but there's been a bunch of retirements. So we have the bones and the genesis of a team. We have our first choice goalkeeper. Seamus Coleman is back. I mean, if Coleman hadn't had that horrific injury, who knows what happens? It's not beyond the bounds of possibility that we score in Denmark in the playoff. Who knows, right? That we've blooded a bunch of players, that we have an idea of what our squad is now, and that it was only the European Nations League.
Yeah, there's truth in that. There is also the argument, which I'm sure Martin O'Neill will be making, that who have we lost to that is a weaker team than us?
I mean,
is that a defeatist attitude? Kind of is.
How do we do against Northern Ireland? You know, granted that's a friendly, but what did we do?
Didn't lose the game.
What did we do against Wales, who had a team of kids?
I think Wales and Denmark are better teams than us at the moment.
They're not much better.
I think, well, to be fair, if you look at Ryan Giggs' record so far, it's nothing spectacular. It's spectacular against Ireland and mediocre against the rest. So there is an argument to be made there. Denmark are a better team than us, and he will be making that argument that really the one, you could possibly put it like this, one moment where we really, really underachieved was going to Georgia and not coming away with 3 points. And even then, that wasn't the most outrageous result in the world. Like, they're the arguments he'll be putting forward, that how desperate has it really been? The conversation around Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane has been that this is desperate, that these people are completely falling flat in their face and Irish football is completely underachieving at the moment. And he might be making the argument that actually, if you look at a result-by-result basis here, we're not really. Now, in my view, I think that that's not true at all. I think we should be better than getting beaten 5-1 to Denmark in Dublin and 4-1 to Wales. I think we're certainly better than those results that we've shown, and there is kind of underachievement in terms of our side of play, and it's not all about results. But I'm sure Martin O'Neill will be putting his case forward strongly in the other direction.
A correction from Nathan Murphy this morning that the next Nations League is actually in autumn 2020, but no notion yet whether or not it's going to be linked to qualification for the World Cup. Unlikely as it stands.
Right. I did not know that. So 2 years' time we get more nations. 2 years' time, Kosovo. Book your flights.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We got a Kosovo.
Well, 100%. There's a documentary to be made in an Irish fan's trip to Kosovo. That's really made my morning now that the Nations League is back in 2 years' time. Don't have to wait 4 years. 2020, what a year.
I feel bad about the willful ignorance I've cultivated around the Nations League. I should have embraced this more.
Well, kind of. It has also been a fairly miserable experience.
It's been a very miserable experience. What's next on our breakfast menu this morning? So Leo staying put. This is obviously at the press day yesterday. Leo Cullen asked about the Ireland job and Joe Schmidt potentially moving on. Leo says he hasn't thought about it yet.
No, I think he kind of speak out of turn to say, oh yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in, or I want the job, because Joe Schmidt's future is still very much up in the air. The thing is, what happens next month, or by the end of this month really, it's only there's only about 10, 12 days left in the month when Joe Schmidt makes his decision. And say if Joe Schmidt elects to leave and the IRFU decides, you know, we want Stuart Lancaster involved with the Ireland rugby team, how does that change the dynamic at Leinster at that point? Do they then bring in somebody to help Leo Cullen along, the kind of lack of ego that Leo Cullen showed in terms of bringing Stuart Lancaster in? Do they then replace that role with a like-for-like person in a like-for-like role? Or does Leo Cullen take on more of a responsibility? Or conversely, do they just substitute the team that's working so well at Leinster and just put them right into the Ireland camp? And then you're kind of screwing over Andy Farrell to a certain extent. I don't know, but it seems that there's like 3 potential players here for 2 roles maybe at the top of the Irish rugby team, and that is between Andy Farrell, Stuart Lancaster and Leo Cullen, and that is if Joe Schmidt leaves.
Yeah, or...
The thing is, you've got another year as well of Leo Cullen's development.
Yeah, or like... you've got somebody in the perfect situation at the moment, and Leo Cullen can, at any point in the future, on the back of the body of work that he's putting together at Leinster, say, yeah, now I'm ready for the Ireland job. Like, after the next World Cup if he wants. Because he's in such a situation where he has shown the ability to look outside the confines of a situation which was going really badly, seek help in the form of Graham Henry first, and then in the form of Stuart Lancaster. And you're like, okay, clearly he's soaking up all the information and knowledge, but it's very early on in his coaching career at this stage. In 4 years' time, like, at that point, he could be the best coach in world rugby if he continues on this path of development.
Say if Leo Cullen, I accept what you say, say if Leo Cullen was the man for the job in the view of the IRFU.
Right now,
let's just say he's the #1 candidate. But you've got Lancaster and Andy Farrell also lingering around at a similar enough level. Looking at this cynically, would the IRFU not be smarter to give the job to Stuart Lancaster and make sure Andy Farrell is in there as well? And if Leo Cullen was interested, say, bide your time, we'll get to you eventually, because of the fact that he's Irish, because of the fact that Stuart Lancaster and Andy Farrell perhaps have more international appeal, that other rugby federations around the world may say, well, those guys aren't Irish, they might not be married to the idea of staying within the IRFU system for that long, we're going to go and poach them. So the IRFU are being proactive in trying to stop that and trying to lock those guys down, that they just kind of leave Leo Cullen there. I wonder, looking at it cynically, if that could be a route that might be taken.
Well, that's... Why is it cynical?
Because you're trying to keep everybody in the system. You're kind of downplaying Leo Cullen's chances because of the fact that he's Irish, because of the fact that he's probably more loyal to the IRFU. I'm not saying that Stuart Lancaster and Andy Farrell aren't loyal to the IRFU. I'm sure they are.
But if you look at his coaching journey, he's been a head coach for 3 seasons this stage, whereas like Stuart Lancaster has taken England to a World Cup. Andy Farrell has been the defence coach for both the Lions and for Ireland. So his international rugby experience at the moment is far lesser than the other. Yeah,
I'm sure it is, but as I said before that, I said just pretend that he is the man for the job. Right. And like, I wonder if that could be something, if that could be a roadblock down the line.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Don't think so. I think down the line, in 4 years' time, no. I think right now, if you've got all these available resources, use the resources the best way you can, no?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think Andy Farrell is the guy who gets the job if Joe Schmidt leaves at the end of the month.
I don't know. I think that...
You've also got to think about what happens in 12 months' time.
Yeah, I think Stuart Lancaster is definitely... I don't know. I mean, can you get the two of them to work together again? That'd be great. Like, that's the ideal scenario, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Who gets the head coach job is the big question.
I mean, maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't.
And do they make a call on it now is the thing. Like Joe Schmidt has talked about a succession plan that needs to be in place before he leaves.
Well, Nusafora has. I haven't heard Schmidt talk about it.
But Joe Schmidt has spoken about it.
Okay.
He says that I'm not going to leave Ireland in a situation where they're not capable of going on to the next level.
Okay, so drunk curlers, rumour mill and Central Council. What's the Central Council story this morning, Owen?
Central Council this week, they're deciding on a couple of big ideas, one of them being Roscommon, who wants to set up this central delegation of fixture planning, which obviously makes loads of sense. And then the other one is a Tier 2 championship, which the CPA are vehemently opposed to. So the CPA, big time, are supporting the Roscommon proposal that establishes a select committee to conduct an overall review, but they're completely against this Tier 2 proposal. They're witnessing a number of alarming developments. Micheál Briotti, the head of the CPA, said yesterday, he says that the changes that are being brought to the table as yet could start another incremental change that could sound a death knell for summer club football, which is already practically extinct. I'm not sure how you can sound another death knell for something that's already practically extinct. Basically, this weekend, if we're going to see a Tier 2 championship, perhaps make the next step forward, it's going to be a big Saturday afternoon for the people who are supporting that.
Yeah. It's hard to get behind it in the current format. The whole notion that everybody starts off and then we wind back, it's like, it just doesn't make any sense.
I'm not sure about the idea, though, that it's going to sound a death knell for summer club football. I think, as he says there, it's already almost extinct. I think it is extinct. I think who really is playing summer club football? We've seen most of the county championships actually go later this year.
Digger Forum's back to his original Twitter name, so I can't read it out. Rocky 4 training in the mountains is great, but also peak Cold War propaganda. Our Spartan against the doped Drago. Rocky 1 won an Oscar and was based on an unknown boxer who pushed Muhammad Ali to the limit before being eventually beaten. That's Chuck Wepner was the original Rocky. There's a mediocre enough 30 for 30 about it, which is, look, it's worth your watch. We had him on the show once. Life worked out all right for him. He ended up getting $1 million out of being the inspiration for the movie.
Not bad.
Rumour mill, what have we got for the rumour mill this morning?
So yesterday we were chatting about Marcus Rashford and his potential link with Juventus. Manchester United are going to offer him a new contract to make sure he stays. Isn't it funny how that works out? 24 hours after there's a story out there that a club, or a couple of clubs, want to sign Marcus Rashford, Manchester United are now ready to stump up the cash. 170 grand a week is what they're offering him. And Christian Eriksen, of course, was in the rumour mill yesterday as well. Real Madrid potentially looking to launch a £90 million bid for both him and Marcus Rashford. Spurs are going to stump up with a new contract for Christian Eriksen, he hopes. He's only earning 78 grand a week, which is actually ridiculous. Dele Alli's got a new contract recently where he earns 170 grand a week. But apparently, according to the newspapers this morning, Eriksen isn't actually quite happy with how he's been played by Maurizio Pochettino this year. So there's a financial implication there, and there's also a positional implication. He's not quite happy.
He wants to be the big dog.
He wants to be the big dog. And Manchester City launching a £75 million bid for Frenkie de Jong in January. The Ajax, I guess, midfielder, holding midfielder, central midfielder. Basically, Manchester City see him as a long-term replacement to Fernandinho, but Barcelona are also going to be in the mix for him.
Buy him now, put him on the bench for 2 years, and then he gets graded like 23, 24, 25.
Basically, yeah. Manchester City have been looking to sign somebody in this position for quite a while. They were going very, very interested in Jorginho before he actually decided to sign for Chelsea instead during the summer.
And then the last one is the drunk curlers. This is a story that's been doing the rounds on the internet. Curlers getting drunk.
Let's take you to the Red Deer Curling Classic in Alberta, which is a story we've been covering here for quite some time. So, curling team led by Ryan Fry, who you'll all know as a gold medalist for Canada at the Sochi Games. They had to forfeit their game after fans and opponents complained of broken brooms, damaged locker rooms, and all-round frivolous activities due to being completely wasted, which they were. The Red Deer Curling Training Centre manager, Wade Thurber, has issued a statement saying that they went out to curl and they were extremely drunk and breaking brooms and swearing and just unacceptable behaviour that nobody wants to watch or hear or listen to, and it was just enough was enough. There was some damage in the locker room and other teams complaining about their stuff being kicked around the locker room. So at the end of the day, it was like, okay, that's enough of this gong show. The committee for the Bonspiel collectively decided that we needed to remove them from the spiel for this year, and what happens down the road, I'm not sure yet. Ryan Fry has issued an apology as well, sincerely apologising to fans. There is actually a bit of audio, a bit of video we want to bring you here. This was the live feed of the curling championships in Alberta, but somebody was standing really close to the mic and started describing what actually happened during these drunken antics.
Yesterday, they got here about 11 o'clock. They were sitting over there drinking about 30, 40 empty bottles of beer, and they were doing shots. They went out there completely drunk and played, kicking rocks, throwing brooms, got disqualified. Other teams were saying, we do not even want to play here anymore if they are allowed. So they said, Team Cooey disqualified, and they're never allowed to play here again. And Brad Jacobs, Ryan Fry skip, called here to apologize, and apparently there's further discipline against him because Brad doesn't want to lose his sponsors, like Pinty's not. And so, yeah, Ryan Fry might be gone. His team over this.
Here's too bad.
4 years ago wins a gold medal in the Olympics and now gets too drunk to play.
Yeah.
Okay, that is amazing. It's like an episode of Fargo without the murder.
The Guardian have got a great piece on it this morning where they talk about WADA's role in this. Now, last year, alcohol was removed off the anti-doping list. And WADA's argument was that you don't need a lab test to tell whether someone's drunk. And besides, the change affects only the 4 sports: archery, air sports, automobile racing and powerboating, who rigorously, of course, enforce the ban on the understandable grounds that aeroplanes, arrows, speedboats and sports cars don't make great chasers. But curling, it seems, does.